It's an hourglass, and I collected it a long time ago because it reminded me of how most people live, measuring how much there is to go and how much is gone. And they live in these two big areas, the top and the bottom. And the only area to live in is in the middle, when it's actually happening. But most people don't live in the middle. Most people live in a combination of the top and the bottom, or quite often just in the bottom. If they're young enough, it's just in the bottom because it's all about looking forward. When they get a little older, it's more about looking backwards because they're so had it. But they don't live in the time that's actually happening, which is in the middle, now. And this is the plague of most adult human beings. And so spiritual endeavour is to learn to live in the middle and stop living in the future and in the past. And that's up to you, because you create your reality by the way you think. And if all you're doing is thinking about what's going to happen later, which is usually hope and fear, well, you're lost in a dream that's not even real. If you're just remembering what's gone by, you're probably already dead. You just don't know it yet, because you're living in the past, and the past is dead. The dead past, the imagined future. It's where most people live. You find someone who's living in the centre, in the now, and you found someone who's actually exciting to be around. Because they're not dead, and they're not imagining something that's not real. They're living in the moment. Your choice, because you choose where you live. How fun do you want to be? Since I've been a teenager, I found most adults dead because they're not present with me. They're imagining the future in a fear-based situation or a hope situation, or they're living in the past memories, or they're living in analysing, which is just as bad. There's only now. It's the only time that's real. It's the only time that you can actually live in. You can exist in the past and in memories of the past, and you can exist in projections to the future, but it's an existence in a dream that in no way is real. So you go into any monastery or ashram anywhere in the world, the first thing they're going to introduce you to is meditation. Most people don't want to do that. They want some high teaching so they can collect knowledge and pass the exam at the end of the day and get the certificate. You're enlightened. Well, that's not how it works. You've got to become deadly first, and you become deadly when you move into the moment. You are not deadly when you're living in the past, you are not deadly when you're projecting to the future, and you're not deadly when you're analysing. Anyone who's had anything to do with martial arts or boxing knows that for a fact. You want to be deadly, you're in the moment. Doo-dah. So when people come at me with their victim-orientated stories, I know they're living in the past, and they're probably projecting to the future as well at the same time, somewhere. They're in la-la land. They're dead, but they don't know it yet. And from the perspective of when I used to be a salesman back in my early 20s, that was so easy to sell, it wasn't funny, because they were already dreaming. All I had to do was produce a dream that they liked. So easy, because they're already lost. And that's what a good salesman does. They use dream to sell product. If they can't use dream to sell product, well, they're not a good salesman. Doo-dah, doo-dah. how present can you be, and can you stay there all day long? When I heard Osho talking about this in the early 80s, meditation needs to be every moment, I was thinking he was talking about formal meditation. And I was thinking, no way, I'm not going to sit all day long, bugger that. What he was talking about was being present to reality all day long. And that's absolutely possible, because you were like that when you were about 2 years old. You were present to what was happening around you continuously. You weren't living in your head yet. You weren't projecting to the future. You weren't remembering the past because you didn't have any. To move into the past, it's not a bad idea to start noticing the people that are in your lives. Where do they live? Do they live in the now, or do they live in some imagined future, fear-ridden or hope-ridden? Both are the same to me. Because the other side of hope is always the fear of not getting what you want. Or do they live in the dead past? Quite often if you run across old people, they'll start talking to you about what they've done. They're living in the past. They're dead. They just haven't, their body hasn't died yet. Sometimes you can smell it. But if you start looking at your friends, you start looking at your family, you start looking at your acquaintances and your colleagues, are they living in the moment, or are they dreaming their lives away? Because what that does is it bounces back to you and shows you where you're at. And sometimes we need that echo sound to remind us to get present. My whole life since I was a boy, I liked the idea of being deadly, and I actually have been, because I'm present. This had nothing to do with spirituality. It had everything to do with, I want to live. You can't live in your dreams. You can exist, but you're not actually living. You're dead. And the more you live in the dreams, the projections to the future, the memories of the past, the analysing, the deader you are. And also the easier you are to take advantage of. People who live in the moment are relatively difficult to take advantage of. They see you coming. You want to take advantage of someone, you take them into dream. So spirituality to me is a load of rubbish, really. I am a reality teacher. I'm trying to teach people how to be real. And if you're living in the moment, present to what's happening around you, you're living, really living. Then, of course, there is higher states like enlightenment. But you've got to get real first. You've got to get out of the dream that you found yourself lost in. And before you can get out of it, you've got to realise you're dreaming. You've got to realise you're living as the hourglass, the top and the bottom bits, not the centre bit. I don't care how successful you are in life and how much money you've got or how much fame you've got or how much beauty you've got. If you're not living in the moment, you're dead. And if you're a hard to get along with person, like you're selfish, you're a dead shit. So let the games begin. Any questions? Any statements? Anyone got any answers? Any challenges to anything that's been... I love challenges, by the way. It's brilliant. And I tell you, it's like... I don't care who you are, if you're not awake, you're living in a tin dinghy. And you take on someone who's awake, you're taking on an aircraft carrier. You don't stand a chance. So be prepared to be annihilated.